All right guys, before I dig into this bike build, I want to give you a little bit of background information. The CRF250RX was a brand new model in Honda's 2019 lineup. Honda based the bike on their CRF250R motocross model, and they really wanted to tailor the bike to the off-road racer. They wanted to get in with the Yamaha YZ250FX and KTM 250 XCF. Now when Honda designed this bike, they didn't veer too far away from that motocross model. It does have your normal off-road stuff, the 18-inch rear wheel, kickstand, bigger fuel tank, and it does have slightly softer suspension settings and slightly different ignition settings as well. But other than that, it's not a whole lot different from the motocross version. Now, I have a video where I compare this bike to a Yamaha YZ250FX where I give a lot more details on the specs and other background information, so be sure and check that video out if you're interested in more information about this bike. Bottom line, I've been riding this bike for several months now and I really like it. It's got awesome handling, awesome suspension, decent bottom end power, mid-range power, and it pulls hard on top. It's a really fun bike to ride. And although Honda has kind of geared this bike to the off-road racer, it is a great all-around bike. I've been taking this thing on rides in the high-speed desert stuff, the real technical mountains, and I've even had it out on the motocross track. And it, with a few suspension changes, it does awesome in all of those places. So over the past several months, I've put a lot of different parts on this bike. I've tried some different things. And in this bike build, I want to focus on the parts and accessories and the things that I did that I feel are most important for the RX and the kind of riding that I'm doing. Now, if you want to see everything I did to this bike, all the parts I put on it, be sure and check the link in the description. I'll list everything there. But with that said, let's get to it. All right, so let's first talk about the engine on this thing. In 2018, Honda totally redid the CRF250R motor, and it was a good motor. It pulled really hard on top, but a lot of riders complained that it didn't have enough bottom end. So in 2019, they made some changes to give it a little more bottom to mid-range power while maintaining that great top end, and those changes went into the new CRF250RX. Now, I like the motor. I think it's got decent low-end power. It's pretty good in the mid, and it's a screamer on top. It's comparable more so to the KTM, but it still lacks the grunt that the Yamaha YZ250FX has. I do want to point out that Chase, our video guy, he just got back from testing the brand new 2020 CRF250R model and said that Honda's been able to get even more low-end power for the 2020. So stay tuned. I think the RX is going to get some of that too. But overall for me, I think this motor has been great. It does well everywhere. It's not perfect, but it does pretty dang good. There are times where I felt like it needed more, like it needed to just breathe a little bit better, maybe give me a little bit more down low. So there's a couple mods that I've done to really help the performance of the motor. So I want to talk about those real quick. So the first thing I did was I put on some FMF 4.1 slip-on silencers. These allow the bike to breathe a little bit better, get that exhaust out a little bit quicker, and it just improved the performance all around on the engine of this thing. Another thing I like about them is it's got the option to put in spark arresters. So if you're an off-road racer and you ride in an area, race in an area where you have to have a spark arrestor, this is a great choice. They pop in and out pretty easy. My only nitpick with these silencers is they are going to be louder than your stock exhaust, which is to be expected because they give more performance. But if you're a single track rider riding in sensitive areas, that's something you definitely want to take into consideration. So with the exhaust breathing a little bit better, I wanted to get the intake breathing a little bit better as well. So I installed the Twin Air Power Flow intake system. Basically, it replaces your stock cage with the backfire screen and replaces it with a new cage with no screen and an air filter that has a fire retardant foam inside so it can't catch fire. It allows the engine to breathe a lot better. So with a good breathing intake, good breathing exhaust, it definitely improved the performance of this motor all around from bottom to top. Now, even with the better intake, the better exhaust, I was still having an issue with this thing flaming out, stalling on me in the real tight technical stuff. I'd come down a hill idling and get into some rocks and it would just flame out. So there's a couple things that I found that really help this. So if you're an off-road guy that really likes the technical stuff, I really recommend these for you. First of all, it helped quite a bit to turn up the idle just a little bit. I know that seems like a no-brainer, but it seemed like the way this thing was just flaming out sometimes, it just needed that little extra idle speed, and it made a big difference. The next thing that made even a bigger difference, and I really am happy with this mod, is the Henson Momentum clutch basket. Now this clutch basket is a steel basket and it weighs quite a bit more than the stock. In fact, the stock, I weighed it with the gear on the back, the primary driven gear, and it weighed 1 pound 14 ounces. The Henson basket with the gear on the back weighed 3 pounds 4 ounces, so quite a bit more weight. Now, is what that weight is going to do for you is going to act very similar, if not the same, as a flywheel weight. As your motor is going, you're going to have a lot more rotating mass on that primary driven gear to keep the crank and the piston and everything moving. So when you get into that slow technical stuff, into the rocks, the motor can just chug through that stuff a lot better. I threw that on not too long ago and I've been really happy with the results of that. So again, if you're an off-road technical hard enduro type guy, you definitely want to look into that Henson basket. All right, now moving to some of the accessories I put on this bike to make it a little more off-road worthy. The first thing that I did was put on a Honda Showa steering stabilizer. These things are nice because they fit right behind the number plate. You don't even see them. And the Honda frame and triple clamp come ready for this thing to bolt on. So you can buy that steering damper off the OEM diagrams because it came stock on some of the 250R and 450Rs a couple years back, but we also sell it in a kit with the bolt and the right hardware on our website. So if you're interested, check that out. The hardware is important because this thing is actually bolted on with 7mm bolts. I don't know where else you're going to find 7mm bolts, but for whatever reason, Honda decided to use 7mm on those. So if you're going to get one of these on your bike, pay attention to the bolts. After the stabilizer, I went with some steg pegs. Now, this is the first bike I've had where I've actually run the steg pegs. They've been around for a few years. Back in the day when I was racing desert, I always felt like I needed something like these. They weren't invented back then, to kind of hold my boots into place, so when I'd get into that high speed, choppy stuff, I wasn't putting so much stress on my arms and wearing my upper body out. These things do exactly that. They're exactly what I wish I would have had when I was desert racing. The first time I put these things on, they felt kind of weird. I wasn't used to having that bump right there. It only took about one ride before I ever even noticed them again. So I really have liked these more than I thought. When you get into the high speed stuff, you can kind of lock your boots onto the pegs and you're just putting a lot more weight of your body on those instead of your arms. So it really saves your arms. And then another benefit I found, which I was surprised with, was when I'm doing off-road, tight single track, when I'm doing a little hill climb or something, I can put a lot more of my weight on those pegs and save my arms there as well. So kind of an added bonus that I didn't think about, but on hill climbs, long mountain climbs, those things made a big difference. So I am really happy with the steg pegs. I'll probably have those on all of my bikes from here on out. After the steg pegs, I want to talk real quick about a couple protection items I put on. First of all is the Cycra skid plate. I looked at several different plastic skid plates and I felt like this one gave me the best coverage. It's nice and thick and it's been a really good skid plate. I've had it on for several months. Beat the tar out of it and it still works awesome. Now it's not perfect by any means. I noticed the drain hole on the bottom does not line up with the drain bolt. I suspect that the skid plate was made for something else, maybe an older version of the 250R, but it still works really well. So I could either drill a hole in the skid plate where my drain bolt is, or I just choose to take out the 3 bolts that holds it on. But as far as protection goes, it's an awesome skid plate. Then of course I had to put some good handguards on the bike. So I went with the Tusk D-Flex Pro handguards. These are kind of a staple for me. I put them on just about all of my bikes. They have really good coverage and they're extremely tough. While we're on the handguards, I did put on the Baja Design Squadron Pro headlight. I do a lot of night riding in the summer and that thing works awesome. Now I want to move to the rear tire. I'm running the Recon Hybrid tire. This is a brand new tire from Tusk. And although it's brand new, I've been running production samples for several months now. If you're an off-road, technical trail rider, then you probably know how awesome hybrids are. This new one from Tusk is no exception. Super gummy. It gives you a lot of confidence going through that rough, rocky, rooty stuff. It keeps your bike from getting kicked around and it just hooks up. The thing I like about the hybrid tire from Tusk is it's not the softest hybrid out there. It's not the hardest either. It's somewhere right in the middle. So it still hooks up really well, but when you get aggressive and you start hitting corners hard, accelerating hard, it doesn't feel squirrely like some of the really soft hybrids. And although hybrid tires are maybe not my first choice for high speed, desert racing, I've put this thing through the paces and I know it holds up well and works well everywhere. So pretty stoked about the tire. Moving on to the last mod that I'm going to talk about that I feel like this bike really needs to have, and maybe my favorite mod, is the Tusk Radiator Fan Kit. Again, if you guys like tight single track, technical, hard enduro type riding, you've got to have a fan kit on your bike. And I've really liked having it on this bike. The nice thing about the Tusk kit is you can set the temperature to kick on whenever you want. So I've set mine at 190 degrees, so it'll kick on at 190 degrees, drop the temperature to 185 before it kicks off. So it's got that 5-degree drop. It's a really nice fan kit. It's got a quality Panasonic motor. That's the same motor found on Yamaha and Honda fan kits. Really good quality, and it just gives me peace of mind. Whenever I'm doing anything gnarly, I don't ever worry about overheating my bike. So great accessory if you're into tight, technical, gnarly type of riding. All right guys, so that's my 2019 CRF250RX bike build. Again, I just wanted to focus on the things that I thought were most important for this bike. Click the link in the description if you want to see everything I did to this bike. And I want to hear what you guys are doing with your RXs. What do you guys think about them? What have you done to them to make them better? Please comment below and let me know. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up and subscribe for more bike builds, product spotlights, and how-tos. Thanks a lot for watching.